Hi everyone, it's CricketSong with Lunar Wisdom, and I'm here today to answer a question a viewer asked me about how did I start working with the land spirits, because in a previous video I talked about working with land spirits more than working with deities. So this is how I went about it. It doesn't mean it's the right way. It doesn't mean it's the only way. This is the way I went about connecting with the spirits of the land here where I live in Seattle and in Washington, but Seattle specifically, and specifically this land that you see behind me. This is the backyard of the home we rent, as well as there's a front yard and a side yard. So how did I begin connecting and working with the spirits of this particular land? First off, when I moved here, when we moved here 3 years ago now, a little over, 3.5 years ago, it was the weekend of July 4th. This house had been occupied by my husband's childhood friend, although he didn't spend a lot of time here. He was basically living with his girlfriend. He had moved in with her, and he still owns the house, but he wasn't really living here. So the whole yard, the grass back here, the garden was non-existent. The pear tree had been overgrown. The grass had gotten really high. The house looked abandoned, and the yard was not very well kept. It really just looked like nobody lived here. So the first thing I did was to connect and ground and root myself, was really get out here in the yard, on the land, and just kind of spend time in it before I started working in the yard. I just kind of like spent some time outside here and got the feel of the energy of, the grass and of the pear tree, of the ivy that grows, and the front yard. I just sort of, walked around and spent time on the land in the way it was given to us. And then I started working with it, meaning that I did some basic sort of landscaping. I'm not a landscaper, but I kind of went out in the front and started trimming back the trees so you could see the house. And my husband went out and, cut the grass. And then we ended up planting a second garden box. The one in the back is the one that we put up. The one in the front is the one that was here. I planted a garden the first year the second year we were here. The first year I did not. The first year I just really spent time, bonding with the pear tree and doing front yard work. And then the second year I planted a garden. And then this year, there's still some herbs growing in the garden. And I started feeding the birds and really becoming used to the birds that live here, and the birds that come, and blue stellar jays. I've never seen a stellar jay until I moved out here. They're my friends. The crows. There are so many crows here. I compare it to seagulls. There are seagulls here, but not as many seagulls here as there were where I lived in Massachusetts. There's crows. So I would spend time communing with the crows, which I consider, any of the animals, spirits that reside here are part of the nature spirits that I work with. And then really, the trees in the front yard, the holly that I have growing in the front yard, the blackberries that grow here like crazy. Just spending time and getting to know the energies of each of the plants, each of the birds, each of the animals that naturally grow here, as well as the ones that I plant. and bond in that way, just really spending time here out in the land, on the land, and really just, doing meditations outside, and literally talking aloud to the pear tree, who is kind of sick right now, and just really, bonding with the energies, so that now the home and the land feel like they're not just dormant or abandoned, that they are tended to, they are nurtured. I nurture them as much as they nurture me. That's how I began working with them, and how I continue to work with them. It's not a process that I begin and finished. It's an ongoing process that I continue to do. So every year now, we plant a garden. Every year, once the winter is over and the rains sort of end, I go out and I retend the front yard. All the things that I've done, all the bush trimming and planting of lavender in the front yard, I tend to them. The moss gets a little out of control. So, working with the moss to allow it to grow in specific places while, tending to it so that it doesn't become a hindrance to us living here. Sort of finding that common balance where I am working with instead of against the natural energies that reside here, that existed here before I moved here and will exist here even when we move away. It's an ongoing process. And like I mentioned in the previous video, it's sort of a surrendering for me of my own energy, instead of trying to always maintain control, trying to go along with the energies of the natural spirits that work here or live here and work here and reside here and work with me. And I surrender to them so that we can work together instead of trying to control them. So for me, it's a surrendering. It's a receptive energy. It's a sort of surrendering is the best word that I can use here. So my advice is, if you're looking to work with the nature spirits of the land that you reside on, is to get out into the land, to explore the plants that live, the trees, the flowers that grow on the land that you reside on, and the spirits you want to commune with. Do meditations outside in the land. Speak with the nature spirits that live there. And I'm just smiling because, did you see the little squirrel that ran around along the fence? So communing with them, the squirrels or the birds, the insects, the plants, the flowers, the trees, the moss, whatever, the dirt. Can I tell you, working with the dirt here, with the soil, is very different than the soil in Massachusetts. So I recognize the differences, and you can do that too, when you get out there and live and be in the energies of the land that you're looking to work with. That's my simple advice. I mean, I'd love to hear what you all do in order to commune with the spirits of the land that you reside in. So please share in the comments with me. I'd love to hear your stories and your advice to others who are looking to begin working with the nature spirits. So until next time, I love you. Blessed be.